In the fall of 1918, the president of the University of Saskatchewan closed this campus. No one could get in or out. The Spanish flu had arrived in the province, the same flu that would claim millions of lives around the world. The quarantine worked, but not without a problem.
There's never been an influenza strain like it. Highly contagious, it struck with amazing speed, often killing victims within 24 hours. Unlike other viruses, it generally spared children and old people, targeting healthy young adults instead.
It was very incapacitating. Influenza patients often had profuse bleeding from the nose. They would turn blue all over. Skin was clammy and cold, and subsequently choked to death.
Maureen Lux is a medical historian. She says when the flu first appeared at the university, President Walter Murray wasted no time. He knew his students were in the high-risk age group.
The university responded quite quickly by instituting a quarantine. All students who wanted to leave were allowed to go. The rest were allowed to stay.
The entire campus was sealed off, except for Emmanuel College. It became an emergency treatment center, staffed by brave volunteers, most of them women. Their names are still engraved in the bricks of the old administration building.
The college was packed from basement to attic with flu victims. The women who were nurses there found, of course, that they were one of the first to succumb to the disease. And so as they would bring in new help, new nurses, they too would become victims. I think that the conditions were probably horrendous.
During the quarantine, only one person died from the flu on campus. Not surprisingly, one of the volunteers. The rest of the university was one of the safest places anywhere. Students lived in residence. Classes continued as usual. Life went on in wonderful isolation from the disease raging around the world. The only real threat turned out to be boredom. On the night of Saturday, November 9th, 1918, two pharmacy students snuck into the chemistry department, broke into a lab, and drank some methyl alcohol. One of them died from alcohol poisoning. President Walter Murray was determined to avoid a scandal.
Murray was reluctant to admit that this kind of thing could go on at his university, much less at his quarantined university where he had assured parents their children would be safe. Murray worked with the coroner who examined the student, and they decided together that his death should be attributed to the flu.
The university succeeded in covering up the incident. The flu was claiming so many other lives. What was one more? But the truth was eventually discovered. Professor James Sherrard, who had been there that night, wrote it all down in letters to his wife.
The matter of the pharmacy student was hushed up, the coroner passing him as dying from the flu.
The Great Flu epidemic killed between 30 and 40 million people worldwide. 5,000 right here in Saskatchewan. And although President Murray lied about one of those deaths, his quarantine of the university likely saved countless other lives. For the CBC NewsHour, I'm Bill Waiser.